went to a concert one time, and they were talking about how often they fear death, or they think of death, and they use it as a motivator. And it was interesting that somebody pulled out of their pocket this coin called a memento mori, something like that, where it's a tiny coin that reminds us that we all die one day. And it was very interesting that on stage, all these people started pulling the same coin out of their pocket. And I went, whoa. And it was a reminder that make the most of today, because you don't know how much time you have left.
You have no idea. It could be over in the car on the way home today.
Yep. So make the most of it. Seize the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to Old Guy Talks to Me, a podcast dedicated to helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. Ladies, if you want to know what your guy is thinking, this podcast is for women too. Each week, a special guest helps you create that life you've imagined. We talk anti-aging medicine, personal growth, relationships and hot sex. Yeah, you hear me, getting laid more frequently. Other guy vices, and topics that many don't want to talk about but need to. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to be old. Don't want to miss anything? Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast. And be sure to go to www.thestandard.academy/magazine and grab a free copy of our new digital magazine, The Standard Academy, where we talk about erogenous zones, growing hair back, and other things that will help you create that kick-ass life. Now get ready to listen up and share with friends.
You pushed on. I was still getting emails from you during this time. They were much more emotional than they normally were.
Oh yeah, I was very weepy.
Yeah. So there were still signs that you were working during this time frame, pushing forward.
Mm-hmm.
There were still signs that you were trying to maintain and get back to it as fast as possible. Shouldn't you have been resting?
Well, what is resting? I mean, there's only so much fucking TV you can watch. There's only so much Netflix you can watch. And when you have purpose, you're much better off in terms of your energy and your psychological impact. But yeah, I mean, people go like, "Oh, well, rest." Like, well, I can't watch any more fucking Netflix. And so.
Well, talk to me about the purpose, Orest. Did this heighten your purpose? What is your purpose? And then how did this experience change you or heighten the purpose? Or,
well, my men's coaching program is called the Stantard Academy, and it has to do with an accountability program where we have weekly meetings to help people stay on track. Because most of the times, like, people will go to a seminar or whatever, and everybody hugs and beats their chest and screams and pounds on the fucking table and blah blah blah. You're all hyped up, you get home and you come home and your wife, or if you have kids, you come home, drink, you have dinner, Sunday, next thing you know, you put those notes on a bookshelf, and there they are, pristine for the next 5 years, except for the dust that's collected on them. And so my program revolves, that doesn't happen in my program when you sign up for the accountability part. And as you well know, I'm pretty good at getting people to be accountable. So having that purpose was really important, because it gave me something to work towards, that I was continuing to work towards. It wasn't something new. It was just a continuation. Now I know I was going at a much slower pace than I had been in the past. But there was a going forward that was definitely occurring. And so that was kind of it was an interesting phenomenon. But yeah, having purpose, I think, is really important. Even if you don't have this kind of thing going on in your life, the statistics are that people die, men especially. It's not true. Actually, it's not true for women, but men die when they retire if they don't do anything. and chasing a little ball across the grass and looking for it in the bushes and things like that is not my idea of purpose. There was a time I enjoyed playing golf, but I don't really care to do that right now. And so I think, it gives me something exciting to work towards, and I'm still continuing to work towards. We should be launching here fairly soon. A few little things that we need to iron out, a few little technical difficulties, which fortunately I have a guy who's really good at this stuff and been very helpful. And I got people that found on Upwork that are able to do some stuff for me. So it's, having that was important, because other than that, what do I do? Start drinking at 10 o'clock in the morning? And I'm not even in Mexico. Well, so, you can do that when you're in Mexico for a week, but.
So you were very quick to get back on you love your cigar and scotch on Friday.
Right.
So I saw that you tradition trumped maybe healing time, or were you supposed to be participating in your traditions? No, you were okay to do that?
No, I was okay to do it. No, I asked the doctor, no restrictions. When I had the ostomy, there was no restrictions really.
Quick question on the background of that. How did you get into cigars and scotch? How did cigar and Scotch Friday start?
Well, I've always been into cigars. I shouldn't say always, but that started in high school. I started smoking Swisher Sweets, and there was always something special about cigars I enjoyed. And it wasn't as much pronounced as it was over the last 10 years, where it's become more of a social thing. You can have a lot of really good conversations over cigars, and you'd be I don't know if you go to a cigar bar, especially where you're at in North Carolina. There's probably a ton of them, but a lot of business gets done in cigar bars. A lot of business gets done in cigar bars. I
didn't know that.
It's pretty amazing that. Yeah, and also kind of maybe probably depends on the cigar bar, but the one I go to here in Las Vegas and the one I go to in Phoenix, it's just the majority of people are in there are A-type achievers that are in there smoking cigars, and so there's a lot of business happens. People will meet as much they'll meet, and actually to that extent, to that reason, my youngest daughter. I actually taught her how to properly cut, light, and smoke a cigar, because she called me out on it. And she goes, she was 21 at that point, and she said, "If I was a boy, you would have already taught me how to smoke a cigar." And I go, "Yeah." And then I hid behind Oksana on that for a while, and then Oksana goes like, well, she's right. It's not like she goes and smokes every. I think probably the only time she smokes is with me. But she was out here a few weeks ago, and she and I went to the cigar bar, and we had a nice conversation. It takes about an hour and a half to smoke a cigar most of the time. Okay. And you
smoked all your one session whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it's not good the second time around. So it's not like pizza, where it's good cold.
So I was watching your video, and is that the proper way to smoke the cigar? Is the finger and thumb pinch?
Sometimes or two fingers. It depends on how you want it to do it. It's fun. It's actually probably about two fingers.
You ever do the over the hook finger?
What do you mean, like that? No.
That's a different position.
The Groucho Marx look. No. I think Groucho Marx. I thought
that was proper etiquette, but I'm not a cigar smoker.
Yeah. So that's always been a big part. And, it allowed me to have people over, to have some socialization occurring. And it was, like I said, it was an interesting phenomenon. I went to the hospital twice. You'll laugh about this, Kevin, because I went to the hospital twice. And the second time I was just there for 2 days because we were just having a really hard time with his bags. And so we went to the hospital, and they had me in there for 2 days, and then I got let out. So I got let out the day of the Super Bowl. And a friend of mine had bought the cigar bar that we go to, had tickets in the VIP area for the Super Bowl, and he had bought a couple of tickets. So so I joined him literally from the hospital. I didn't even make it home. Literally from the hospital to the cigar bar, and had a couple of drinks. And but then even still, then we still had. So we had problems with the bags for quite a while until we went to a wound healing physician, and we had home health, which was really good. But the wound healing physicians, they get stuff faster in terms of the newer stuff, the better stuff. They get faster than that's what our home health nurse told us. She said you should go, and with some of the things that the nurse at the wound healing doctor showed us, we were actually able to start to be able to get the bag to stick. Which all of a sudden just like, okay, so we can go out. I mean, we're not going to go out like really fancy place, but we can go out and have a cocktail. We can go for happy hour. We can go to movies. I can go to the cigar bar. I have a lunch that I go to the first Wednesday of every month. I can go to that. So I was able to start to go off. My wardrobe was deteriorated because I always wore sweatpants everywhere I went. But it was that was a big step forward in terms of not having, not waking up shitting over yourself.
The one last question on the cigars, and then I'm going to switch topics.
Okay.
What's the best time to go to the cigar bar or cigar?
Whenever you feel like it. There's no
time frame that's better than the others.
There's no. I think that probably like in some places like in Phoenix, it's a very different vibe. It's busy from about 3 o'clock till they close in the afternoon, and that's probably about time, especially on Fridays. People tend to get off work early or whatever, or maybe 4 or 5, and then like people are done with their stuff. Here in Las Vegas, at the place I go to, it's kind of a hit and miss, but there's always people in there. I usually end up there about 3 or 4 o'clock, and I'm usually out of there by 5 or 6. I was in there the other night, actually with my daughter, and we were in there like way late, like 8 o'clock. We didn't get there until late. But they have the whole vibe of this particular place changes because they have live music after 8 or 9 or something like that. Now Vegas is a very late town. Yeah. Phoenix is the exact opposite. Phoenix is like everybody's up in the morning at 5 o'clock. Vegas is kind of like, in Phoenix, if you go, the dry cleaners are open at 6 o'clock in the morning. Here in Vegas, they open at 10. Yeah, so the cigar thing is still do it and enjoy it, and we'll continue to do so.
So talk to me about testosterone, because I got to tell you, this has been a hot topic for so many people recently, and you're probably one of the pioneers. You've been taking it for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people worry that, hey, if I take too much testosterone, are there long-term effects? This is a new trend, etc. How in the world did you start taking testosterone decades ago, and how do you think it helped you in your surgery?
Yeah, I've been on testosterone now for over 26 years.
How in the world did you get on testosterone 26 years
I
ago?
had a friend of mine who was he was a dentist. Unfortunately, he committed suicide, but he had something called Huntington's disease, which is a horrible way to die. They say it's a combination between Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And so he was into the whole anti-aging space, HGH, testosterone. Also, he was a bodybuilder. He was like 250 pounds at 5% body weight. And he was just like, outside being incredibly driven, smart, just a beast of a person physically. And so at that point, I was really fat. I have a tendency to be fat. People in my family tend to be fat. My mom was 300 pounds when she died. My sister's 300 pounds, maybe more. So I probably had not taken testosterone starting early, I'd probably be a diabetic at 300 pounds, wearing orthopedic shoes and complaining my joints hurt and breathing heavy and taking insulin injections all day. So I got into this and I stayed on it, made several stops here along the way, but I noticed that I was able to do things. One, I lost a lot of weight and I put on a lot of muscle. It was a combination. I did several things to do that. And I kept on being strong. I mean, I like being strong. That's kind of my identity is as a power lifter. And, to be able to go into the gym at age 69, to bench press 100-pound dumbbells, that's pretty damn good. Shoulder press 60-pound dumbbells, so that's been in my identity. Now there's, it's very interesting that my primary care physician, he told me, he was like totally against it. Your dick's going to fall off. You're going to get prostate cancer. You're going to get heart disease. You're going to get that. And I said, like, you know what? This doesn't sound right to me. Especially the one that really didn't sound right was the heart disease, because testosterone really helps you maintain your muscle, and the heart's a muscle. That's all it is. It's a fucking muscle. It's a muscle and a pump. And so I've been on it for a long time, and I've had several doctors. A few of them, one of them ended up in jail. That's because he's so stupid. His reception area.
Got a lot of side stories that we could make. A lot of these side stories.
Yeah. I mean, he somehow got involved. His reception area looked like a WWF casting call room, and he somehow got involved in this thing where that wrestler went crazy and committed murder suicide in Alabama. But he got, I don't know how he was involved in it, but he was an arrogant prick. He went for a DEA interview without a lawyer. And he just thought he aced it, but he ended up in prison somewhere. But the challenge right now is that, yeah. And I'm gonna have to preface this is that I am not a physician. Consult with the appropriate healthcare professional before starting any course of therapy. The challenge right now is twofold. One is that there's a number of studies, including a Mayo Clinic consensus paper that talks about basically all the fallacies that exist regarding, all the stuff about heart disease and prostate cancer and blah, 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 basically says like, that's all crap. And I mean, that's a pretty damn good source, is the Mayo Clinic on the consensus paper. The other thing is that the real challenge is, one is finding a doctor that will give you enough to make you feel good, because many physicians in this area are very tepid, and they look at the quote unquote, the normal lab values. And those lab values are going down. The high normal on some of the lab companies has dropped from 1100 to 960. Okay, so it's not the first time that's happened. And so these and there's a thing called the Massachusetts male aging study. It's a huge study, looks over 30 years, and it documents actually the generational decline of testosterone levels in men. So this is not like tinfoil. This is like New England Journal of Medicine published. It's not some tinfoil.
What's causing that?
Do you need accountability? Are you looking to change the course of your life but have failed to keep on track? Too often we take in information and fail to act. Do you need an accountability program to stay the course? Then go to www.thestandard.academy and find out about my accountability program that goes with my course that helps you find out what you want, why you want it, and how to get it. The accountability program keeps you on track to get results.
Well, there's lots of things, including what we call endocrine disrupting compounds. And actually, it's affecting many young men more so than old men. A friend of mine who's in this space, he's a physician, says that he's seeing men with lower baseline values of testosterone in their 20s and 30s than he is in men in their 50s and 60s. So there's all sorts of stuff. So, but the challenge right now is, one is finding a doctor that's going to give you enough, and two is that you have these T-mails out there, and they load you up with all sorts of stuff. They load you up with all sorts of stuff that you really is probably not good for you, that you don't need. Some of them give you what they call aromatase inhibitors, which inhibit estrogen, which you don't want to do. I did an interview with a guy named Scott Howell, who's an androgen expert, really fucking smart. I sent him an email. Actually, kind of, because I asked him, I said, are there any studies about testosterone in wound healing? And he said, oh yeah, there's plenty of stuff, especially for burn patients. So he said, yeah, so that's there. But they load you up with the stuff, and I would encourage you. I've got several interviews on testosterone on my podcast that are really go into depth in the subject. One was Keith Nichols.
You healed.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So Keith Nichols is a physician who deals basically almost with in the anti-aging space. A guy named Jay Campbell. I've done several interviews with him, and then Scott Howell, where we get into a lot of details about testosterone and some of the things that are going on. So I believe that
you healed, though. You healed from, and you credit testosterone because you were like one of the top percentage of healers.
Well, I got out, I did not notice it, Kevin, after the ostomy, but we did notice it when we got to the reconnection. And maybe it's because I was in the hospital for so long, I was so drugged and everything else, but I do believe I probably did, I did do very well in terms of healing. So yeah, and I think also the other thing is people think it's really about sex drive, which to a certain extent it is, but it's about keeping your muscle mass. It's about getting lean, cognitive abilities, decisiveness are all affected by your testosterone levels, including your heart health is also a big thing. The thing that I found for myself, and I found this for others, I've heard this from others, is that also it is a monster. It acts as a monster antidepressant for men. Absolutely monster. And I say that from my own personal experience. I've heard from other men that it really changes their whole outlook on their life.
And I also had here, speaking of changing your outlook on life, you got blown in a new designer hospital gown.
So yeah, so I had all these irrational fears, and they were very irrational because my physician said there was no reason. The surgeon said there's no reason to believe that I could not be reconnected. But of course, you always play out the worst case scenario in your head. And as a result, so we went in, and I was supposed to start surgery at 8:30. But he obviously had some complications on the first two cases in front of me. And so I didn't get in until 10:30, but I did get a blowjob in the hospital. Now people are wondering,
from the nurse, or
well, yes, the nurse did give it to me. And so we were laughing because they have these new fancy gowns that have vents in them. And in order to keep you warm or cool, and you attach this hose, and it blows into your gown and blows air into your gown. So that's how I got that. That's my version of getting a blowjob in the hospital. But the nurse laughed. She thought it was pretty funny, and so we did that. And and then a discussion right before I got wheeled in. I said, will there be a scar here? And we said, well, a little one. I said, shit, there goes my Speedo modeling contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he laughed at that. And then, as you know, I always believe in marketing. And so I made sure I had my business cards with my podcast, and I gave it to the operating room staff as I was being wheeled in for my surgery. So
always be selling.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and then, like I said, I woke up, I was happy to feel that there were, the bag was gone. That was my number one fear. And the nurses said everything went really smooth.
So talk to me about this. This was my favorite quote, and maybe this is what you learned, or maybe you can elaborate on kind of the biggest takeaway going through this. a favorite quote that you said was, "We magnify the things in our heads that we think may go wrong."
Yeah.
And that applied not just to what you were going through in surgery, but also in life.
Oh,
What
I
do
think,
you,
yeah. Yeah, I think we do that. Some people more so than others, but we always like, we work out the worst case scenario. We're not going to go ask that person for something, or we're not going to do this, or I'm going to do that, because we magnify it. And quite often, the longer you put it off, the more of a challenge that you have. And I think this is probably the worst place that this happens for men and women is in relationships. And what happens is that maybe something is said or something that happens, and that little slight is ignored, but it festers over time and grows and grows and grows. Where if he had addressed it as when it was minor, it would not be so big. But you just said, "Oh, I don't want to push this or whatever. I'm just going to walk away from it." And actually, Jordan Peterson writes about this too. He talks about this, about how that stuff. So we do tend to, we create these fear and these monsters in our head based on a certain amount of unreality. Now, there are times, that the fear is right. Somebody's got a gun to your head, you shouldn't be afraid.
does part of your accountability program help people address this stuff?
We talk about that. Yeah. And we talk about, actually we talk about using fear and pain as motivators in my accountability program, in my training, because those are incredibly powerful emotions that if you can tap into them, will drive you. People will do a lot to avoid pain. People will do a lot to get out of fear. They'll do more of that than to get something that they actually I kind of want it. And then I talk about that in my program also, about whether, is it wishful thinking or do you really want it? And the difference between it, functionally, the difference is, are you doing the work to get it?
And that's where the accountability comes in.
Mm-hmm.
All right, talk to me about this whole experience. Anytime we go through something that's very traumatic, with a lot of pain, with a lot of perspective, we usually come out of it with a lesson. What did you, going through this, what are you coming out better on the other side for?
I think one, it's an appreciation for what I have. Especially you start appreciating stuff more when you don't have it. You're not able to do certain things. And we certainly all found that out during COVID. Things that we took for granted were all of a sudden like, well, that's not happening anymore. So I think an appreciation for what, for things that I have and things I get back. I feel like I have as corny as it sounds, a second lease on life. There's a second go around, a second opportunity to start. And Oksana and I've talked about this, about the things that we want to change in our lives to make them better. I mean, our lives are pretty damn good, but there's always better, and there is no such thing as status quo, which I talk a lot about in my program. Status quo is a myth. You are getting either better or you are getting worse. And if you think you're maintaining status quo, then you are by default getting worse. I can guarantee you that.
All right.
Yeah, but it's become a little bit more introspective, and then in some cases a little bit less introspective. But at the same day, just kind of appreciating what you have, and also knowing that it's important to have a sense of purpose. That's carried me through this whole point, and so that's been a very, very important aspect of this.
You mentioned at the beginning of the interview that you had a different perspective on mortality. Maybe it was more a fear of becoming decrepit than mortality, but I found this interesting. I went to a concert one time and they were talking about how often they fear death. or they think of death, and they use it as a motivator. And it was interesting that somebody pulled out of their pocket this coin called a memento mori, something like that, where it's a tiny coin that reminds us that we all die one day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very interesting that on stage, all these people started pulling the same coin out of their pocket. And I went, whoa. And it was a reminder that make the most of today, because you don't know how much time you have left.
You have no idea. It could be over in the car on the way home today.
Yeah. And so make the most of it. Seize the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Okay. Well, my friend, I have no more questions for you. How are you? Any final takeaways or anything I missed that you took away from this?
I don't think so, Kevin. I think we've covered it all. I think that I think one is, as we talked about, was attitude is really important, having purpose, and don't take shit for granted. There's I can't remember if it was a book or excerpt in a book. It says nothing is so bad that it can't get worse. and so yeah, there's a lot of truth to that statement. Just when you think it couldn't get worse, like all of a sudden something happens, and things. So what they say, things come in threes or whatever. So I think attitude, support, and acknowledging to people that you need help. I would tell people, like, even my cigar group, like I'd say, like, I'm sorry, I'm wearing down. I have to go lay down.
Yeah.
Or even just saying, hey, I need help. I'm not 100%. I'm not looking to be a victim. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me, but I just may need a little extra to do things. So Kevin, I want to thank you for taking the time to interview me about this. I thought you'd be the perfect person for this, and I was proven right again. I have a good habit of being right on a lot. And so I appreciate you coming on oldguytalkstome.com and interviewing me. So
good man. And I tell you what, not too many people that I know would have the foresight to videotape themselves going through the process. I thought that was good foresight, and
well,
I hope you get to use those clips for more than just a memory. Obviously, we use them to come to life today, but that
we'll see. That's a whole nother project, but not right now. That's a shiny object. I have to finish up. So this is Oris, the official old guy at oldguytalkstome.com. Remember, I want you to do several things. First of all, I want you to follow me here on this, follow me or subscribe, whichever you can do on your particular brand of service. On Spotify, it's follow me. I want you to share, rate, and review. And if you're going to give me a bad review, that's fine too. I love my trolls. If you troll me multiple times, then I might even send you a little gift, because trolls boost people's rankings. If you're a particular a rabbit troll, that'd be perfect. And then the other thing I want you to do is to subscribe to my magazine, the stantard.academy/magazine, where there's lots of hacks, including if you figure out how to find her erogenous zone. And it's a free digital magazine you can get. And as I said, go to the stantard.academy/magazine. Until next time, remember, it's all about creating a kick-ass life for yourself and those that you love.
Thank you for joining Dr. Orist and his incredible guest. Like what you heard and learned? Then be sure to do 3 things. 1, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. 2, share this with someone who may need to hear it. 3. Leave a review and rate this podcast. Opt in at www.thestandard.academy/magazine and get our free digital magazine with savings, articles, and deeper dives into cool controversy. Be the guy who takes action. Without action, you're not going to get the results you want. Thank you again, and make it a great day.